It's a beautiful day to be alive. The clouds are out. We ain't fucking around today. I don't know what you're doing. Whatever you were thinking, don't think it. Because that's just fucking, you're just gonna get yourself to the same predicament you've been all your fucking life.
Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. This happens to me a lot with my tweet storms. I've actually come up with a whole bunch of additional tweet storms besides the ones that are already out there, but sometimes I just hesitate or I just pause and then it just dies. And what I've learned is if I'm inspired to write a blog post or to publish a tweet storm, I should probably do it right away. Otherwise it's not going to get out there. I won't come back to it. Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. 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 Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. Inspiration is a beautiful and powerful thing, and when you have it, just seize it. Inspiration is a beautiful and powerful thing, and when you have it, just seize it. Impatience with actions and patience with results. That's actually a good philosophy for life. Anything you have to do, just get it done. Why wait? You're not getting any younger. Your life is slipping away. You don't want to spend it waiting in line, traveling back and forth, doing things that you know ultimately aren't part of your mission. When you do them, you want to do them as quickly as you can while you do them well with your full attention. But then you just have to give up on the results. You have to be patient with the results because you're dealing with complex systems, you're dealing with lots of people. It takes a long time for markets to adopt products. It takes time for people to get comfortable working with each other. It takes time for great products to emerge as you polish away, 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 polish away. Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. 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 Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. If I have a problem that I discover in one of my businesses that needs to be solved, I basically won't sleep until at least the resolution is in motion. And this is just a personal failing, but if I'm on the board of a company, I'll call the CEO. If I'm running the company, I'll call my reports. If I'm responsible, I'll get on there right then and there and solve it. If I don't solve a problem the moment it happens, or I don't start moving towards solving it the moment it happens, I have no peace, I have no rest, I have no happiness until that problem is solved. So solve it as quickly as possible. I literally won't sleep until it's solved. So solve it as quickly as possible. I literally won't sleep until it's solved. Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there. 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 Inspiration is perishable. When you have your inspiration, do it right then and there.
I was back in Los Angeles, I was telling that same story to someone, and they said, hey man, I go to these meetings. And so then I went to some AA meetings, and for the first time in my life, I sat down and listened to people tell stories, which were my favorite thing to hear. My whole life I've been loving stories, man. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life when I was young, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. Whether I had to tell it or try and live yours, whether I had to get emancipated and come live at your house or this house or that house, I just wanted a different story, man. I wanted to be in a family and I wanted to feel loved, you know? You know, I just really, I think, and I didn't even know it. I didn't know how much I wanted to, be loved, and I just didn't even know it. And once I got into these rooms, you had to sit there, you had to be quiet, you had to hear other people. And people started talking and telling their stories, and for the first time in my life, they were telling emotional, tales that were exciting and fucking dope and deep and real. And I connected with that. I loved it. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. I love your story. You know, whatever your story is, I love it, man. Because all my life, I just wanted a different story. I wanted a different story. You know, I loved it in that. So I just kept going. Next thing you know, I had a couple nights in a row, or a couple weeks in a row, or months in a row where I was spending time with other people and I was meeting people, and suddenly Los Angeles became like this place that I'd always kind of hated and judged. It became a little bit, I still don't like that place. People out of their fucking minds out there. A bunch of disconnected kooks judging most of the rest of America. But it also gave me a place to it just gave me friends, it gave me people. And because I knew those people had struggles, I knew that they felt some of the same ways that I felt inside, I couldn't judge those people, you know? Even though sometimes I wanted to.
Okay, so without further ado, we are going to talk about Dr. Seuss, beginning with a poem that you have written.
Without further ado,
Wait, it appears to be, so I have not heard it yet. I'm looking forward to it. And it appears to be written by one Dr. Weinstein,
yes.
Which is how I refer to you sometimes when you call me on the phone and we yell at each other.
My sense is that now they have gone far too far. The offenses they claim have grown just too bizarre. They say Dr. Seuss wrote books that did harm, that we shouldn't be fooled by his fanciful charm. But they must assume that we're dumber than dumb, that we'll take their word and go numb and succumb. But I think they've guessed wrong, or at least we can hope, that no one of sound mind could be such a dope. Like everyone else, Dr. Seuss had his flaws. He made some missteps and got dirt on his paws. But he owned his mistakes, made amends and grew wise, illustrated his growth as his heart grew in size. Seuss was a model of how we should behave. In confronting our flaws, we should all be so brave. And if we are able, put lessons to rhyme, for a rhyme drives a point with rhythm through time. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme, for a rhyme drives a point with rhythm through time. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme, for a rhyme drives a point. Rhyme drives a point. Rhyme drives those with an urge to burn witches and books. We should face them with courage and Seussian looks. We should block them with baffles that baffle them good, so our descendants will know where it is that we stood. Let them read Dr. Seuss. Let them read it, I say. Let them read the whole catalog. Don't you take it away. It's not yours to take. It belongs to us all. Your authority's fake, and your bluff we now call. Straight to hell with this wokeness. Kids can handle the truth. Acquisition of nuance is the purpose of youth. If we shield them from slight jabs and bumps, they'll grow weak. They'll fear violence and innocent words that we speak. And who wants to live as a quivering wreck? Minds like a sieve hiding under the deck. Have them come up. Stand out tall and robust. Although history's full of events most unjust, that's not the whole story. No, not by a lot. We've made progress aplenty in both fairness and thought. Though we've miles yet to go, and we've no time to rest. The West is best suited to master this test. So we must protect it, stand fast and defend values that must never be brought to an end. Equality is good, a most worthy objective. It must be defended from naive invective. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. For a rhyme drives a point with rhythm through time. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. If we are able, put lessons to rhyme. For a rhyme drives a point. Rhyme drives a point. Rhyme drives. We must keep on and continue to strive to keep progress going and keep hope alive. Doesn't matter your color, your sex, or your creed. Opportunity is the thing all Sneetches need, irrespective of stars that they have or they don't, regardless of things that they will or they won't. We know how to fix this. It's in all those books, lodged now deep in our minds in the cramped right, as I'm sure you're aware. So treat this rock and each other at the greatest you can.
You always inject novelty. It's what triggers memory. Because your brain will get bored of the sameness, so you need to trigger memory and attention with contrast. Is a way to get people to move from where they are to where you want them to be. You just say, well, it's much less expensive than this. So contrast is one of the most important buttons. Use contrast often. Hey, you don't want to be this bad. You could be over here. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines. The more you repeat, the more the wiring gets solidified. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines. And if you keep things simple, the brain can process it and deal with it. And if you keep things simple, the brain can process it and deal with it. If it's complicated, your brain has a tendency to just flush it out. Can't deal with it, flush it out. The fake because is a form of pseudo-logic. Sometimes you need to get people moving with a fake reason that doesn't even actually pass logical standards, but people don't need logical reasons. Just look at politics. People have incredibly different opinions, and many of them are smart. So if you've got smart people on opposite sides of basically every issue, you can see that they don't need real reasons. We're not a species that operates on real reasons. We'll take a fake reason, we'll take one we made up, we'll take a guess, we'll follow our friends. Once you understand that people don't need real reasons, it frees you. Because if you're locked in a little world at a lower level of awareness where you say, well, I'm not going to convince somebody unless I have a real reason. Sorry, that's not the reality any of us live in. Real reasons are good. If you have them, use them. But we don't need them. Real reasons are good. If you have them, use them. But we don't need them. Real reasons are good. If you have them, use them. But we don't need them. Once you know you don't need them and that reality can be authored, you're in better shape. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines. The more you repeat, the more the wiring gets solidified. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines.
Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines. The more you repeat, the more the wiring gets solidified. Repetition and simplicity. Our brains are just simple machines.
By this means of effortless effort, the individual changes his policy. And a good example of this method of changing is in the selection of an adequate vocal coach if you intend to take singing lessons. In the, shall we say, robusto style, the principal problem was to open your mouth and bellow. And nearly all, many of the older singers were quite content and happy if they could rattle the chandeliers in the back of the opera house. Then it was gradually discovered that this was the best way to ruin a voice that there was. These voices were damaged, and damaged terribly. Today we know that the best way to learn to vocalize is to reduce effort. Today we know that the best way to learn to vocalize is to reduce effort. The principal problem that every singer has to get rid of is his own throat. If he could lose it, he would sing better. Get his mind off of the noise he is making. Relax and allow the breath to move as it will. And if he controls the breath with a minimum of mental energy, he will produce a pure tone. Well, if he gets behind it and shoves with everything he has, he will develop only a badly pressured, badly trained voice. Today we know that the best way to learn to vocalize is to reduce effort. Today we know that the best way to learn to vocalize is to reduce effort. Same thing in life. Same thing in life. The purpose of life is to use a minimum amount of energy to attain maximum results. Minimum amount of energy, maximum results. Minimum amount of energy, maximum results. Minimum amount of energy, maximum results. Same thing in life. Minimum amount of energy, maximum results. Same thing in life.
One way of conceptualizing yourself is that you're one speck of dust among 7 billion. And when you conceptualize yourself that way, you might think, well, what difference does it make what I say or do? And that's actually quite convenient for you, because if it doesn't matter what you say or do, then you don't have any responsibility and you can do whatever you want. The price you pay for that is a bit of nihilism, but if you don't have to shoulder any responsibility, that's a small price to pay. The other way of looking at it, and this is actually the accurate way of looking at it, is that you're in a network. You're a node in a network. You can do a little bit of arithmetic very rapidly and just figure out how powerful you are. You know 1,000 people. You know 1,000 people. They know 1,000 people. They know 1,000 people. That means that you're one person away from 1 million people and 2 persons away from 1 billion people. And you're the center of that network. And now the way networks work is that information propagates in a network manner. So don't underestimate the power of your speech. Don't underestimate the power of truth. There's nothing more powerful. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Now, in order to speak what you might regard as the truth, you have to let go of the outcome. You have to think, I'm going to say what I think, stupid as I am, biased as I am, ignorant as I am. I'm going to state what I think as clearly as I can, and I'm going to live with the consequences no matter what they are. Now, the reason you think that's an element of faith. The idea is that nothing brings a better world into being than the stated truth. Now, you might have to pay a price for that, but that's fine. You're going to pay a price for every bloody thing you do and everything you don't do. You don't get to choose to not pay a price. You get to choose which poison you're going to take. That's it. So if you're going to stand up for something, stand up for your truth. It'll shape you because people will respond and object and tell you why you're a fool and a biased moron, why you're ignorant. And then if you listen to them, you'll be just that much less like that the next time you say something. And if you do that for 5 years, you'll be so damn tough and articulate and able to communicate and withstand pressure that you won't even recognize yourself. And then you'll be a force to contend with. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. Tell the truth. 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 Or at least don't lie. That's a start. It's almost impossible to provide people with enough protection so that they feel safe to speak. Okay, so we'll address that directly. It is not safe to speak, and it never will be. The thing you got to keep in mind is that it's even less safe not to speak, right? It's a balance of risk. You want to pay the price for being who you are, stating your mode of being in the world, or do you want to pay the price for being a bloody serf, a one that's enslaved him or herself? Well, that's a major price, man. That thing unfolds over decades, and you'll just be a miserable worm at the end of about 20 years of that. No self-respect, no power, no ability to voice your opinions, nothing left but resentment because everyone's against you. It's like, say what you think carefully. Pay attention to your words. Say what you think carefully. Pay attention to your words. It's a price you want to pay if you are willing to believe that truth is the cornerstone of society. In the most real sense. If you're willing to take that leap, then tell the truth and see what happens. The first chapter I have in my book is called Stand Up Straight with Your Shoulders Back. And it's an injunction to be combative, not least to further your career, let's say, but also to adopt a stance of ready engagement with the world and to reflect that in your posture. I kind of have an affinity for lobsters. When a lobster loses a fight, he kind of crunches down, so he looks smaller. When he wins a fight, he stretches out, looks bigger. And so he's signaling to other lobsters the tally of his victory. So you think, well, so what? The lobster runs on serotonin, neurochemical. And if the lobster loses, the serotonin levels go down. And if he wins, the serotonin levels go up. And when the serotonin levels go up, he stretches out. And he's a confident lobster. And one of the consequences of that is if a lobster loses a battle and you give him the equivalent of antidepressant, then he stretches out and he'll go fight again. Stand up straight, stand up straight, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Stand up straight, stand up straight, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Stand up straight, 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 stand up straight with your shoulders back. So antidepressants work on lobsters. And you think, well, who cares? It's like, no. You don't get it. We diverged from lobsters from an evolutionary perspective 350 million years ago, and it's the same circuit. It's absolutely unbelievable. And that shows you how deep inside you, how basic, how primordial that circuit is in you. It's sizing other people up and looking at where they fit in the hierarchy. The idea of the hierarchy is at least 350 million years old. And so I read that and I think, well, so much for the idea that human hierarchies are a sociocultural construct. It's like, no, that's wrong. It's not just a little bit wrong, it's unbelievably wrong. It's mind-bogglingly wrong. Lobsters have hierarchies. That's 1/3 of a billion years ago. Okay, that's not a social construction. It's part of being itself. And if you only see a hierarchy as power and tyranny, then you're looking at the world wrong. Stand up straight, stand up straight, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Stand up straight, stand up straight, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Stand up straight, 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 stand up straight with your shoulders back. So this basically says, I'm open to the world. But what it also says is I can handle being open to the world. So it signifies competence and confidence. The deepest Christian idea is that you should accept the vulnerability of being. That's the acceptance of the crucifixion. You're at the X where all the suffering takes place. You're going to whine about that, and get resentful and bitter about it? Or are you going to say, bring it on. You can handle it, no matter what it is. And the idea is that if you can do that, you will transcend the tragedy. And it's like, well, could that be true? Well, you admire the courageous, so, well, how courageous can you get? That's the question. How courageous can you get? Without that beauty, there's no call to higher being. This is also why I've mentioned to people that they should clean up their rooms. That's become quite the internet meme. But I'm really serious about it because it's really hard to do that. And it isn't just that you clean it up. You also make it beautiful. Make it beautiful. Make it beautiful. Make it beautiful. beautiful. It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. Make it beautiful. It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. What's really cool is if you learn to make something beautiful, even one thing, if you could just make one thing in your life beautiful, then you've established a relationship with beauty. And then you can start to expand that relationship with beauty out into the world, like into other elements of your life. And that is so worthwhile. It's just incredibly, crazily worthwhile. Make it beautiful. 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 It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. Make it beautiful. It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. People are terrified of it. People are terrified of color. They paint their walls beige. They're terrified of art. They buy some mass-produced thing because they don't want anybody laughing at them for their lack of taste. And they would get laughed at because they have no taste. But you have to, well, it's right, because what do you know, right? You have to develop it. And so you're going to stumble along and make mistakes to begin with. And you're going to show yourself, because if you buy, I think this is pretty, and somebody comes over and goes, hey, what's up with you? It's kind of hard on your self-esteem, but it's you're stumbling towards the right. You're stumbling towards the kingdom of God. That's what you're stumbling towards when you try to make an aesthetic decision. Make it beautiful. 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 It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. Make it beautiful. It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. Beauty is absolutely terrifying to people because beauty highlights what's ugly. And so if you start to make your room beautiful, then everything around that isn't like that just starts to glow in the worst sense. It's terribly dangerous. That's why people are afraid of beauty, but it's the greatest thing you can do. Beautiful things are beautiful for a reason. That beauty has depth, like it's real depth, man. That's what gets you in touch with the transcendent and the divine is beauty. You introduce that into your room, you're playing with fire. And people will resist it. Make it beautiful. 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 It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. Make it beautiful. It's really hard to make something beautiful. Make it beautiful. It's really worthwhile. I was in this museum a while back. It was full of these paintings from the late Renaissance. It was like a dozen of them in this one room. Every painting on that wall was worth $300 million, like minimum. You couldn't buy those paintings. Like there was like a dozen of them in there. I thought, wow, there's like $3.6 billion worth of paintings in this room. And people are making pilgrimages from all over the world just to look at them. It's like, what the hell's going on? It's like, yeah, no kidding. What the hell's going on? There's beauty in those paintings. There's beauty and it's magnificent. And part of what it does is say, you aren't who you should be. That's what beauty does to you. That's why you're intimidated by a beautiful woman. A staggeringly beautiful woman. It's like, oh my God. Attracted for sure, but definitely intimidated. It's like, well, that's because you aren't who you could be. Beauty does that to you. Because beauty has that contrast.
History is just a 25,000-year dash from the trees to the starship. History is just a 25,000-year dash from the trees to the starship. And while it's going on, it's wild and woolly. But it only lasts like that. And then you're in the starship. 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 Because we are like bacteria or something in the shortness of our lifespan. To us, 25,000 years, you can get lost in the middle of that and you can't see either end. But from the point of view of a species, it's just instantaneous. History is just a 25,000-year dash from the trees to the starship. History is just a 25,000-year dash from the trees no, this thing happened 65 million years ago. A very large object collided with the Earth. Everything on this planet, larger than a chicken, died. Some people think in a single moment. But what's peculiar is there appears to have been a major dieback of species underway before the impact. That in the million years preceding the impact, there was some kind of echo crisis on the planet. And then this asteroid struck. You know, the dinosaurs that we find are the lumbering, enormous ones, but it's always agreed that there were a vast number of small-boned, gray-seal dinosaurs that were much smaller. Is it possible there was a breakout of intelligence? Is it possible that there was an intelligent species of a reptilian sort that was actually evolving a technical civilization which then caused this dieback of species? History is just a 25,000-year dash from the trees to the Starship. History is just a 25,000-year dash from the trees to the Starship. 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 Whenever you have intelligent life in the presence of large explosions, a safe bet is that the intelligent life is responsible for the large explosions. It may be that there was a war in heaven 60 million years ago.
You know who Akira The Don is? Of course, he's amazing.
I only desire the approval of a relatively small number of people who I respect. If they said to me, I think you're totally wrong on this, Douglas, then I'd listen. But when it's people who don't want me to do well, then of course I don't listen to them. It's one of the tools we all have to hone in our lives, to work out who wants us to do well, who wishes us well, and to listen to them, even if they're critical of us, and they will be at times, and to separate out those people from people who just, of course they don't want you to do well. They hate you, hate everything about you, whatever. But I don't have much sympathy with public figures who say, I can't say what I think, I can't speak up, and all this sort of thing. If you're not going to now, when are you going to? If you're not going to in this life, what life are you expecting to come where you'll do it? The person who doesn't stand with the mob, the person who doesn't go along with the mob, the person who refuses to walk with the crowd will feel better. The person who doesn't stand with the mob, the person who doesn't go along with the mob will achieve more in their lives, whatever that is, because they will have self-respect. I'm comfortable as you can be in the end times, as everything's burning down and there's plagues of locusts coming our way. And I have the satisfaction of knowing that I'm not lying. But the problem with going along is that it demoralizes you. It makes you a smaller person inside. You will be demoralized because you'll know that you shouldn't have done that. And at some level you will think badly of yourself for having done it. You'll feel regretful, you'll feel cowardly, and it will affect your life in other ways. And the opposite is also true. The person who doesn't stand with the mob, the person who doesn't go along with the mob, the person who refuses to walk with the crowd will feel better. The person who doesn't stand with the mob, the person who doesn't go along with the mob will achieve more in their lives, whatever that is, because they will have self-respect. That's what totalitarian movements across history always knew, was that you grind people down and make them agree to lies because you will then be able to make them do anything. Václav Havel, great late Czech leader, cites the example of a greengrocer in Prague in the communist era in Eastern Europe, who has to put up in his window, like everyone else, the notice that says, "Workers of the world unite." And it's sent by party headquarters to all greengrocers. You all have to hang it. Václav Havel says a number of things happen from this. The first thing is that, of course, that the greengrocer is showing to everyone that he is a party loyalist and he wouldn't be able to operate as a business if he didn't do this thing. But it also hangs there every day as a sign of his subjugation. It's a little thing, but it hangs there as a sign of his subjugation. And it reminds him that he's not the man he could be. You think you're doing a little thing, but you're not. You are diminishing your soul by doing this. Because you know that you could be something more than the person who just has to hang whatever party headquarters tells you to hang this week.
The person who doesn't stand with the mob, the person who doesn't go along with the mob, the person who refuses to walk with the crowd will feel better. The person who doesn't stand with the mob, the person who doesn't go along with the mob will achieve more in their lives, whatever that is, because they will have self-respect.
Day when you are here. Today is your most fortunate day.
You know, one of the things that revolutionary movements have to offer young people is a sense of romantic adventure. I mean, if you're working at 7-Eleven in a dead-end job and you're offered an adventure, the chance to demonstrate dramatically for a messianic cause, especially if you're young, that's going to call to something deep inside you and excite you, because everyone needs a higher purpose, and that longing can be addressed by romantically inclined ideologues, but there are better ways of addressing that longing, I believe, and there's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's a tremendous adventure in that. It's a demanding ethical striving, and it's a form of responsibility to pay attention to what you say and to only say things that you believe to be true. There's insane adventure in that, because you have no idea what's going to happen if you do that. You entice people into adopting ethical responsibility by pointing out to them in story and perhaps to the degree you're capable by example that there isn't anything more interesting or meaningful that they could possibly do. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. And I think that's part of the reason that my books and lectures have proved popular. I'm making a case for some things, I suppose, that you might regard as obvious, at least when viewed from a certain perspective. When I was talking to large live audiences, I noted that one topic in particular would bring the audience to a dead silent halt constantly, and that was when I made a rhetorical case for the relationship between responsibility and meaning. And you need a meaning in life. You need a purpose to sustain you through the catastrophe of life, through the suffering of life. You need a meaning. It's not optional. And the deeper the meaning, the better. And it's definitely the case that people find that meaning primarily in the adoption of responsibility. And that case isn't being made well in our culture, especially not to young people. There's a hunger, a mass hunger for that idea.
It's better than happiness, that meaning. It's deeper than happiness. Happiness is fleeting. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling the truth. There's tremendous adventure in doing something like telling
the truth, baby. Don't give up. Don't let the world get you down. When it does get you down, get up and write what you want out of your life and don't fucking stop. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no vacations. Only with people with credit card debt take vacations. You get up every fucking day, you look in the mirror and you tell that mirror, I'm a bad motherfucker. And one way or another, I'm gonna make it fucking happen today. And guess what? If you keep writing it down, after a while, the power of the pen, you'll fucking believe it. Next thing you know, you'll be slinging dick like Kevin Spacey. You know what I'm saying? It's over. Oye, te tienen que mamarte la pinga. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque te ronca los cojones, that's why. You part of the church, motherfuckers. I'm with you, you're with me. And they want to be with us, but they can't. You know why? Because we're too real. We show up with no fucking stories, no fucking, you know. You're not going to believe what happened. Oh my God, my answer, who gives a fuck, okay? We came to get down. We came to get down. Jump around. Jump around. Jump around. Jump around. Jump, 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 jump and get down. Jump around. Jump around. Jump, 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 jump and get down. Jump around. Jump around. Jump, 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 jump and get down. Jump around. Jump around. Jump, 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 jump and get down. Anyway, it's your Uncle Joey telling you it's going to be the best week of your life, all right? Whatever happened last week, bury it under the carpet. Just remember you got to check on your skeletons from time to time. Or if not, they check on you. You follow me? Besides that, it's going to be a new week. You get up tomorrow, you do 22 push-ups, and you tell the world to suck your dick.